All right. Hi, everybody. We're live. Um, I have Ta Groen here, and I am super excited to dive into this topic, which is how can human design support children and support parents? So, with I have many, many years having spent teaching in Waldorf education. And I mean, I'm all into like the children are the future. How can we support them? And I'm so excited to learn about human design, which I know very little about. I just know what my design is. and and so how, yeah, and how that can actually be a game changer when it comes to children and families and parents. So Ta, thank you for joining, and yeah, happy to have you here.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Tanya. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's such a dear topic for me. I've been involved with human design since 2006. I went to the International Human Design School before it was even online. I studied with Linda
Wow.
Bendel and actually had Ra Uru within our teaching program. So he popped in once in a while to be live with us. So very fortunate to have been at the very beginning of human design. And it's such an honor to see how it's exploded, and
Wow.
everybody wants to know their design, wants to wake up to their true self, to get out of the monkey mind and into the body mechanics, because that's basically what it's about. And it's human design as a modality is great for me as well. The reason why I got into it was because I'm also a yoga teacher. I've been a yoga teacher for 25 years. So I incorporate that in our yoga teacher training program as well.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Wow. So, yeah. So that really sets you apart, Ta, because, yeah, it has exploded. And I just see it everywhere. Like all kinds of people are bringing human design to the table. And so, yeah, I'm excited to learn. Well, I'm curious. So 2006, it wasn't that well known. So how in the world did you come across it? Like, what's the story there?
Oh,
What drew you?
Tanya, that's a beautiful question because I have such mm, wonderful memories of this amazing woman. Her name is Mary Baker, and she's a manifester in human design. She discovered human design in Hawaii. John, 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 it will come to me. But John gave her a reading, and he was one of the first to bring human design out onto YouTube and all of that. So he's quite famous, but he passed away. So I got to find his name. So I'll find his name for us. So Mary was so excited about human design that her manifester impact, because manifestors make an impact, they're only 7 to 9% of the planet. She gifted me with the training as a
Mm.
manifester. Manifestors make this impact and they create ripples wherever they go. And this is the big ripple that she gave to me and to my family, and now I'm teaching and coaching with it. So yeah, Mary Baker was the reason why, because it's a 3-year program, and
Yeah.
and as a yoga teacher, how could and it's quite expensive. She's like, Ta, I'll be your benefactor. And so that's how that happened.
Oh, wow. What a gift.
Yeah.
Amazing. I actually didn't you said something that piqued my interest. You said, like, human design is a way to get out of the monkey mind. And I was like, "Oh, tell me more." Like, that's the first time I've ever heard that. I mean, that seems like core and central to human design in the way that you said it that I never heard. So tell me more about that.
Yeah. So the philosophy really aligns with the yoga philosophy as well, because it's
Mhm.
the chitta in the mind that yoga asana helps eliminate. So we quiet the mind and we come into the body. So the
Mhm.
concept is not new, right? But
Right.
Ra has given us such a map to why. Why is that so significant? And how do we turn the thoughts down and not make decisions from our mind? We
Yeah.
have another avenue, another center in the body that becomes our inner authority. So the
Right.
mind is never for inner authority to make decisions for yourself. The mind is for outer authority. It's beautiful. The mind is beautiful, but it's not here to pull us off of our geometry, off of our trajectory. The
Uh,
vehicle is here to guide us. And that makes sense because the two sides in human design, you have the red side and you have the black side, and they come together and
mm,
they are a forced marriage. So the vehicle side is our DNA, is our genetics, is the carnage, it's the physical body. And what is more material than the physical cells, right? And how we maneuver onto this planet. So who's going to win over? Is it the mind, the spirit, the thing that we know we think we are,
yeah.
or is it the body that needs to rule? And the body chemistry, mechanics needs to take precedence as an inner authority versus the mind as inner authority. It's only outer authority. If that makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's really powerful. Super powerful. So I could see how, you know, how this could really um, benefit childhood, parents, raising children because, you know, I mean, we know already that, for example, the public education system is cookie cutter. Um, our children are being bombarded constantly with all kinds of external influences. And so there is this, we need so much to protect that innocence, that child, the childhood, right? So yeah, so talk to us about how does human design really, because you talk about the inner authority. So how does that work in supporting children? Is it that you um, through parenting, are you teaching the child about their inner authority? Maybe using different languaging, or I'm sure it must inform like how you approach and communicate to the child. Like, yeah,
Mm-hmm,
I know it's a big
mm-hmm,
question. And it's like it's your
mm-hmm.
your whole body of work, but
Yeah, the
you
whole
know.
body of work. So starting at the beginning would be to know your own design. That's the most important.
Mhm.
Because if we're living the conditioned not self, we call it, and you're making decisions from your mind, and you yourself are not a role model or an example of how that works for your child, how are you going to navigate that with your child? So it must be know your own design, start loving yourself, start surrendering into your own decision making process so that the ease and flow happens. For generators, it's ease and flow, and not moving from frustration, but moving from the ease and flow of energy, right? Where's the energy going? So as a generator, you know that.
Mhm.
If you're a projector mom, knowing the invitation, waiting for the invitation to be the teacher and the guide. So, so if you were saying to a mother who's a projector
That would be
and
me.
not and who's not waiting for the invitation from her generator child,
Yeah.
you know, and you want to micromanage and guide because you want to guide that energy. I know where this energy is going to go. I want to guide the sacral because it's feeling uncomfortable. I see that they're getting frustrated, and I know that if they turn, in this direction, they're going to have ease and flow. But if you're not invited, it doesn't go well.
Doesn't fly.
No. So that dynamic is so powerful. I have 3 projector children. So then from a perspective of a generator, manifesting generator mom, which is a lot of energy, a lot of intensity, knowing that my projector children do not have the same amount of energy as I do, and allowing them the rest that they need.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I could be busy, but they don't have to follow my lead. I can watch and respond to their needs by honoring their energetic levels,
Right.
So that's a good example. But first it starts with us, like, what are we? Yeah. And so now your projector. She's like, your option, your not self would be to micromanage, to get in there and control that energy and not wait for the invitation, even from your child. You think, why would I need to wait for an invitation from my child? But it trains the whole dynamic. It's beyond us.
Yeah, it's so true. I've experienced that with my children, and I think my oldest is, I think he's I think he's like you, manifesting generator. A lot of energy, strong-willed, and yeah, anytime that I gave unsolicited advice, it was like, no, like really resistant, and it was only until those beautiful, and actually, it's quite beautiful when you do wait for the invitation, when they do turn to you and say, "Mom, I really want your opinion. This is my struggle." Like, they just open up to you and they're ready, and it's just like, finally, that projector self is like, "Finally, I can share my wisdom," right?
Yeah.
And it happens in a much more beautiful way that I can see what you're talking about. It strengthens that relationship and the trust.
Yeah. It grows spirit consciousness on our planet. I mean, that's the loftiness of it. It grows the spirit consciousness on our planet because you're amplifying the Shakti, or the sacral energy. It's coming into your openness and is becoming this grand thing. It's becoming this beautiful mirror. And do you want to mirror a frustrated, interrupted person? No. You want to this fabulous invitation where now the spirit is involved. I mean, that's how this works. It's spiritual. It's spiritual energy coming through the body. And we work as partnerships.
Spiritual energy. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Interesting. And I could see, how it's like, wow, like my brain just immediately goes to like, oh, it's too bad they don't have this like incorporated into our educational systems. I mean, if we knew what the teacher was in their human design, what the children are in their design, like how could you, create an educational environment that honors each child? Yeah. Wow. So, and so I'm curious, does the human design inform also your yoga practice, or how you teach your clients in yoga? Or is it two separate things?
When we are doing teacher training, we definitely dive deep into our auras and how that works and how we interact. But on a day-to-day class, guided class, not necessarily, but two of my projector women friends, they're like, Ta, when I was open, I'm like, what do you think, my offering should be? I asked the question, what do you think a good offering would be for me? And as projectors, they're like, oh, you need to put a class out where everybody knows that has their chart in front of them, and we're practicing yoga, and we're also incorporating some concepts of human design. So yeah, it would be an interesting way to meld it, where I'm giving some of what we just talked about: spirit consciousness, sacral energy, projector here, generator here. Do you feel the flow or something like that? I'm just
Mhm.
brainstorming, but they each have their chart in front of them, and that would be an incredible offering, so that
Yeah.
we can move our bodies as well as be stimulated cognitively with the concepts. And then somatically, I'm still brainstorming, and
Yeah.
somatically knowing that when we get into our body, we have more access to these
Well, yeah, that's what I'm
centers.
curious
Yeah.
about, because if each person's inner authority is coming from a different center, right? That's how I
Mhm.
understand it. And so I would imagine that there are certain movements, maybe in poses in yoga, that would then maybe, connect you more deeply to that area in your body. I don't know. I'm just kind of like, that's just where my mind goes as you're
Right,
talking.
right. And if you look at the human design chart and you look at the traditional yoga chakras, when we work the hips, right? We talk about hips all the time and how that is the opening to the emotional body. You get somebody in pigeon pose who's finally surrendering, and that pigeon pose is just going to bring them to tears, right?
Right.
Because those centers are low.
Yeah.
The in human design as well, they're low. They're the solar plex, the spleen, and the sacral. They're all in that area.
Right.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
hip work is key for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Um, I just want to address whoever is watching this video. If you're watching the replay and you have a question that you want to ask Ta, even if it's like, you know, um, my child is a such and such, or this is my design. How do I, you know, ask your questions. We'll definitely get your questions answered after the live stream, because at this point I'm not seeing any comments coming through yet. But um, so I'm curious to know, so when you work, so tell me about like your coaching program. So if someone comes to you, they're struggling with their child, let's say, what are the steps that you take them through? And what does that look like to work with you in terms of, okay, let's just say I have a willful child, I'm at my wit's end, nothing, like I can't seem to get my handle on this. I mean, I see it all the time in my classroom. Like, the child's in my classroom, they're well behaved, and then mom comes in and it's like, "Blah," like they're turned into a mess and they're struggling to get him to sleep at home, but he sleeps perfectly in the classroom. Let's just say, right?
Right.
So, yeah, so how do you tell me how does that work with your practice when you're working with somebody that comes to you?
So again, it goes back to self. It goes back to the mother.
Yeah.
We are so bombarded by stress and performance, and so getting a handle on the love of self
Mhm.
is the first key. So it can take a long time to find this inner balance, because it's all about frequency. When our frequency is high and soothing and in alignment with our true self, everything outside of us changes. The
Right.
child will calm down. The
Right.
child will be soothed. The energy is sacred. It's spiritual. It's going to go out and soothe everybody. It's like the beautiful shaman woman who's in the middle of the forest, and the tiger comes and
Yeah.
the rabbit comes. And,
Right.
it's like it's that. So we do
Yeah.
here this work first. We do this work first, and then bring in the charts of the child.
Okay. Okay. And um, so to guide parents to that place of self-love, um, how do you do that? Is it through, um, how do you guide them? I know,
Mm.
and I imagine each person is different, right?
So different. It's so incredibly different. Some uh, childhood trauma can really
Mhm,
interfere. So we
mhm.
work with that voice, that critical voice, right? To
Yeah.
quiet the mind. So it's always going to be this mind judging and criticizing and thinking it needs to solve its problems and thinking it needs to try really, really hard. You know,
Mhm. Mhm.
how conditioned are we to try so hard? I'm not doing it right. You
Right.
know, I'm going to go and research. I'm going to do the pros and the cons. And so that habit in itself is the hardest thing to start moving into, uh, recognizing which center is your inner authority and how I listen to that. So, Tonya, are you splenic? Splenic
Yeah.
authority?
Mhm.
Yeah. So, how can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, how is your experiment going? So, how is finding your splenic hit and knowing that that is something you listen to and not your mind? Like,
It's pretty clear. Like for me, it's like two totally different experiences when I go into my mind versus listening to my body. That's how I
mhm.
understand the splenic authority,
Yes,
right? It's like an
yes,
inner knowing.
yes.
Um, it's interesting to me what I personally struggle with is I'll have a knowing in my body, and then the mind comes in with all the reasons why you shouldn't listen to it, like, "Oh, it's really okay," or, you know, "This would be the," it distracts you from this deeper inner knowing, and,
Mhm,
I could see where the the mind wants to control and keep the status quo. That's what it's come to learn for the most part, because it wants to be safe and all of that. It doesn't want to risk losing belonging, um, and so this inner knowing can feel quite threatening to the mind,
mhm,
right? Like my body's saying this. What? Eh,
mhm.
really? Well, and then the mind goes, but, what? That's going to mean this, and it starts to project into the future, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So what is the keys? The key, like when those inner knowings come, imagine that, like your coaching and your guidance. It's like you have to just keep staying with it, right? Leaning into trust,
Mhm,
allow, like really being open. What happens when you follow that?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, what happens when you follow that? And the more correctness, right, that happens, the more trust that you can have in your body. So I love the story that Ra gives because he's a splenic authority, manifester though, but still the same sort of hit that you
Mm-hmm.
get. And it's like, whoa, where did that come from?
Mm-hmm.
So the story goes he's driving in Ibiza on country roads and he never puts on his seatbelt, never. But
Hmm.
that one time his spleen told him to put
Oh,
on his seatbelt.
yeah.
Like, why am I wanting to put on my seatbelt? And then he clicks, and lo and behold, something happened where he needed his
Oh,
seatbelt, an accident. So it's like, whoa. So that when that sort of thing happens over and over again, you trust the magic
you
of the
learn to trust it.
universe, the
Yeah.
magic of the universe, and you stop the habit of the mind just trying to rule. You're like, be quiet.
Yeah.
You're not in charge.
Right.
You're not in charge.
Yeah. It's really a deep programming that we have to
Yeah.
take ourselves through.
Yeah, and that's what rock program. It's the program. And we are all when we talk about the transits, that's the program. Like every child is born with a certain design and that's the transit at the time, right? What's happening with the planets. So that's our program. So how do you buck that program? You have to go into that specific focused place within your vehicle and trust that. Because yes, you're getting bombarded by the program, whether it's gate 47, which is very busy mind. If that is 70% of who you are, and you have that in your head center, ajna head center, and you're trying to shut that off, you're not going to shut that off. You're just going to hear it. Oh, and it's just going to be circling, and you're going to be thinking, but it doesn't mean you have to use it for making your decisions. You're still going to have it running as 70% of who you are, because the sun and the earth, if you have a gate in any of those at the top, that's 70% of who you are. So that's a lot of energy that's focused in the head for somebody who has the 47th gate as part of their sun and their earth. Right, especially on the mind side, on the black side. So yeah, it's very layered and incredibly fascinating to learn how accurate this system is.
Yeah, it just, it seems so complex, human design. I mean, I just bow down to people who are able to, it's almost like astrologers, they've got this mind where they can take all this complexity, there's so much information that goes in, and to be able to read it and interpret the information and communicate that. Whereas I don't have that kind of mind. I'm like, I don't have the time or the energy to even wrap my head around how this works. I just know that that's not how I'm built. So I would never go into human design, but to know that there's, someone like you, where I can just say, I need some information here. Like, I'm struggling, like, what, what's going on? What am I doing wrong?
Exactly. And it's beautiful. As a projector, you're helping me reflect a little bit. And why would I be so interested in this, right? Why would I have delved into it and feel it within my being that this is correct for me? Because of my design. I am defined head and ajna. So I have it colored in, and I have 2 channels on each side, which gives it balance. So I have logical and abstract, very defined. And so the 70% of who I am is in my head. So I am very cerebral and very left angle. We call it left angle, strategic. Facts, go over the facts, can repeat them. So I'm on the cross of dominion. So yeah, everything is in my mind. So yes, that would be, so it's appropriate for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. You can just retrieve it. You're like, wait a minute, like it's
There it is, yeah.
and here it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Wow.
Really good.
So before we close, I would love for you to share with those that are watching. What is it that you're offering right now? How could they can get a hold of you? Anything like that you want to share?
Oh gosh, yes. So the 3-month coaching container is about 12 weeks, and that is, I'm just loving this process. And obviously it's customized per, it's customized, but I have, yes, per person. But if you were to work with me, the first step would be just to get a foundational reading. So that would be the first step. And then we'll see where you are. And if you want to become one of my clients, where we work over 3 months to raise the frequency, because that's what we're trying to do. And as open, I have openness, I have open emotions and open root. So I sense the earth frequencies, the stress, the anxiety, the pressure, as well as amplifying the emotional body. So those are my empathic places, and I utilize them fully within my sessions to go deeper into spatial referencing, exactly what is happening in that past moment. What was the catalyst? Where was the frequency? How can we raise that frequency and change it? So there's a lot of different modalities that I bring into my coaching.
Okay.
And it has to do with frequency and raising the frequency to a higher, purest connection. And in human design language, we call it true self.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in the frequency world, we would just say connection to a highest, purest, positive self.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. I love this so much. I just celebrate and honor you like as a new earth visionary. Like you're, one of us. You're one of the many that are here to really like collectively raise the vibration and the level of consciousness and which is so what's on the table right now, right? For the
Yeah.
collective, like here we are. And so and I always say this is that we're not meant to do it alone.
Oh,
We're definitely meant to grow in connection, relationship, community, and to um, be open to connecting, with someone such as yourself who can be that mirror and God, you have so much wisdom and insight that so many people can benefit from.
oh,
Like,
thank you,
yeah.
Tanya. Thank you
So,
so much. Oh
yeah,
my gosh, I'm just so happy to be sharing with you. This is
yeah,
wonderful. This
yeah,
is wonderful.
yeah. So definitely check Ta out, tagroen.com. She's on Instagram as Living Our Design. Is that right?
Yes,
Living Our
yes,
Design on
living out
Instagram.
design.
And yeah, and so comment below, let us know you've watched this replay, ask your questions, reach out to Ta, and much love, everybody. And thank you so much, Ta, for joining.
Oh, thank you so much, Tanya. That was wonderful.
Yeah, awesome. Bye,
Okay.
everyone.
Bye.